free Brick Baby, free Loose, even free Big Uterus. We need all the Crips back on the streets. Without them, we're going to resort to bisexual podcast hosts like Gunner, Mexican terrorists like F Nasty and Icon, and even Mississippi Jits like Remo.
Come on, man.
I don't know what else to say. It's a terrible situation. What are we doing?
How do you feel about it, pal?
How do I feel about it? I feel very, upset. Like we spent the last fucking 2 years building up Brick Baby, making people love him. And it felt like the podcast was like reaching a climax. We're like 4 or 5 episodes in a row that had like 100K plus. Last night we had more viewers than we had on the No Jumper Show in the past couple years. And it's just like, damn. But I'm not going to lie, that whole time, people make a big thing out of it. WACK has tried to bring it up a million times, but Brick got his house raided about 2 years ago. They allegedly found an AK. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's what WACK was always saying. And when that charge never got filed, WACK's argument was, oh, you must be a snitch because it never got filed. But then the other theory that we all heard in the background was like, oh, well, what if it's going to get wrapped up into a federal indictment? Because then it would make sense that the cops would like pass on it for a couple years to let shit build up. So it seemed like that's my guess for what they got on Brick, because I haven't seen any of the paperwork that says anything really about what Brick or Loose are being charged with, So that shit is all still kind of up in the air of like exactly what they were doing. Like one part of it though, I will say, is that I'm shocked by how little of this shit is news to me, because like the whole Big U murder thing, the last Adam and WACK podcast is about that exact thing. WACK was talking about the whole fucking time. 600 talked about it a million times. And then some of the Loose and Brick stuff or whatever, like even Loose's came on the podcast before. I could say this because it's out there. It's on the podcast. And he said that he used to be the muscle for Big U doing what? Extorting weed dealers or whatever. And like now we're reading the paperwork and you're like, oh, that was real, because it says it right here in the fucking paperwork that that's what they're coming down on. I think in Loose's head, it's like, oh no, that was 2-3 years ago. So I could talk about it. It's all good. Exactly. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people think that they did something 2 years ago and that means that it's gone, but I don't think
they're not
so.
going to sacrifice their investigation for any little charge.
Nah, facts. I don't know,
some slide.
Crazy.
Dang.
But I mean, shit. The best thing we could say is that we still haven't really seen like what they got on Brick or what they got on Loose. So hopefully, maybe
they have something too
hopefully
bad.
It'll be little shit and it's not as big a deal as the murder charge that they put on Big U.
Yeesh.
But damn, Big U 59 or some shit.
That's a life sentence, whatever they give him.
More or less, right?
Shit.
That's crazy.
And the feds have the highest conviction rate of any.
That is what they say.
100%.
They crossing T's and dotting I's.
Young Thug was like the example. Oh, niggas be beating.
Now, Adam, let me ask you this:
No,
how
they
much?
What
How
was
much
State Rico, though?
do you think the
State Rico?
How much do you think the podcast played a part in them getting picked up last night? Because it seemed like after Loose and Brick came together, hours later they got arrested.
I mean,
You think the
timing wise, that is very odd, but they also came together. Why'd they come together? They came together because Loose was mad at Lovejoy and WACK for putting shit out there about Big U. So it's like there was all this shit building up where like, people were starting to get the idea, oh, they're building a case against Big U. And Loose was mad at, even though he hates Big U, he was mad at 600 and WACK for talking about it so much. So that was kind of the thing that led to them even being on the podcast together. But you got to think about it from the Fed's perspective, that they probably are realizing like, oh, everybody's putting the pieces together on this and they're kind of figuring it out. So I guess now is a good time for us to swoop in and get them.
And one would say, because to not be a hypocrite, they were saying that Loose was putting on allegations when he was saying that he got the phone call about Nipsey, 30 seconds,
Facts.
30 or whatever, and then he called Loose. So they were saying like, essentially you was kind of like draw snitching in a way by doing that. But then when Christopher Lovejoy get to talking about a case, you're upset with it. Maybe Loose knew he was tied to something. I'm not saying he was, but maybe that's why he wanted Brick, or he wanted Christopher Lovejoy
critical than the
to,
motherfucker.
you know
you
what I'm
would
saying,
think
slow
that-
down with
that-
what he was saying.
You would think that Big U is probably not the trigger man on a murder. that he's probably got dudes around him that could do it for him. Although who knows? Maybe it was just a crime of passion where he was just so mad about some shit. Because that's what it said. I don't know if you guys got to that point, but they're saying that Big U had this artist who was this younger dude.
I read it.
He was. Oh, you already read all that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to, record in their studio. He didn't want to record.